Welcome to Editorial of the Day presented by Topper IS Vijayanagar, Bangalore. Today's topic. This strategic economic bloc will only tighten the leash. In November 2019, India walked out from the trade pact called the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, RCEP, involving China, Japan, South Korea, Australia, New Zealand and the 10-State Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, grouping. Fast forward to 2023, and now India, along with many of the same countries, but with China replaced by the United States, is getting into the US-driven Indo-Pacific Economic Framework for Prosperity, IPF. The obvious questions are, what has changed? And how are the two economic partnership frameworks different? The devil and deep sea. The one clear difference is of China versus the US. Developing a strategic partnership with the US is India's top foreign policy priority. Its relationship with China has, meanwhile, further deteriorated. But a strategic partnership with the US need not come at the cost of economic dependency on it. With China, the big economic fear was any trade deal's impact on India's manufacturing sector of cheap Chinese goods flooding Indian markets. But the economic issues with the US have been no less problematic, e.g. about agriculture, intellectual property, labor and environment standards, and the digital economy. Strategic partnership should not mean accepting a completely US self-interest-driven economic framework that does not suit India's current economic interests. Traditionally, trade deals used to be mostly about tariffs. Increasingly though, issues related to intellectual property, services, investment, domestic regulation, digital, and labor and environmental standards are becoming more important. The US's IPF proposal completely removes the tariff element of typical trade deals and is entirely about all these other areas. In any case, traditional trade deals in the US face likely roadblocks in the legislature. The US has also found a tariffs-free trade deal, presented as a new kind of win-win economic partnership, as a good way to get around the resistance of many countries, including India, to free trade agreements, as they used to be called. However, the IPF's new age language itself is the biggest trap. It knits vaguely worded webs that are not obvious in their actual economic impact other than to US strategists who created the proposals. Early assessment by many experts shows that the IPF would result in a complete stranglehold over the economic systems of the participating countries, in a manner that is to the complete advantage of the US. The IPF is really about developing a strategic economic bloc, an integrated economic system centered on the US, and, as importantly, excluding China. The systemic integration caused by the IPF's actual long-term impact will leave little leeway for domestic policies to help a country's own industrialization, for example through tight supply chain integration that many elements of the IPF contribute to. A trade deal googly. Developing country trade negotiators are used to the traditional language of free trade agreements. Having honed their skills looking for problems in them, they find it quite difficult to understand and respond to the sophistry that the IPF's innocent-sounding text is filled with. This is especially so given that the IPF is proposed to be concluded by November 2023, and when real engagements only began late last year. Traditional free trade agreements are much more focused but still take years to conclude. The supposed innocence of the relatively high-level language of the IPF is being used as an excuse to rush it through. However, this is precisely the kind of language that will unsuspectingly trap countries in economy-wide permanent commitments, with domestic policy making space considerably compromised, but whose real implications will only become obvious by and by. The IPF has 4 pillars: trade, supply chains, clean economy, and fair economy. Fearful of a possible trap, India has joined the other three pillars but not trade. But there is great pressure on it to join trade too, and India could relent. Joining the trade pillar is the worst, but the other pillars to contribute to developing hard new economic architectures and structures that are not tariff-based. In the long run, that could have an even stronger effect on economic and trade flows than tariffs. In the digital arena, it is said that code is law and architecture is policy. In an increasingly digitalizing world, hardwiring supply chains and giving up policy spaces in key areas such as digital, labor and environment, and export constraints would take the form of a gilded technolegal cage of irreversible economic dependency. Does a strategic partnership with the US need to come at such a price? The IPF can already be seen to have deep implications in agriculture, in terms of genetically modified seeds and food, surrendering policy space for regulating big tech, and compromising a comparative advantage in manufacturing because of unfair labor and environment standards. It will also seriously affect India's ability to create a vibrant domestic ecosystem in emerging areas such as a digital economy and green products. Are you preparing UPSC KPSC? Then this is a golden opportunity for you. Topper IS chapter-wise test series is offered at a low cost of just 42 rupees. Only first 100 students will get chance. Every day 1 rupee is higher.